Let's keep America the strongest and the most generous in the world. Marlon Brando on American Dream. In the 1950s, says Stefan, America was living her American dream. Say, every home owns one or more cars, but the rest of the world could only afford to dream about American dream. Now, more and more people worldwide can afford to live the American dream, and the trend is expanding. And the role of America in this process is of the ultimate importance. In the movie, The Formula, 1980, Marlon Brando, oil executive using the words of Thomas Jefferson, out of the context, says, "Money, not morality, is the principle of commerce in civilized nation. That's the philosophy that builds this nation. Without it, there ain't no America." Now, watch the genius actor saying that.
Money, not morality, is the principal commerce of civilized nations. Thomas Jefferson, 200 years ago. That is the philosophy that built this nation.
I resent that. The money with no morality evaporates swiftly. The American nation is built on the principle of morality, the code of law, the most liberating in the world. Liberty involves responsibility, morality.
You know about this nation. Wouldn't you ever give a second thought to American citizens? You're the reason their money's worthless. You're the reason old people are eating out of garbage cans and kids get killed in bullshit wars. You're not in the oil business. You're in the oil shortage business. You're an ivory tower hoodlum, a common street killer. I wish to Christ there was some way I could nail you.
Well, you're going to be nailing the American dream, Barney.
In the 1970s, says Stefan, I was roaming around Europe in my BMW 2002. That was a very sexy car then. It was the decade of the oil shortage crisis. Quite often I would hear from the people the opinion about the United States that resonated with the words of George C. Scott. People would say that America is a selfish country, exploiting other countries in the world, and, in that way, accumulating the wealth. I had resented it then, and I resent it now, in 2018. No other country in the world is more generous than the USA. America is going to be my future homeland. As a 12-year-old kid, I encountered, in 1960, famous American actor Alan Ladd, in Titograd, Podgorica, Montenegro, Yugoslavia. That event made me aware that America was going to be my future homeland. The unity of the world via out of many, one. The motto of the United States of America. How do you create one out of many? On the level of one nation, that has been achieved quite successfully in the USA. Can that be applied on a global scale? That's not easy to answer. Throughout history, every conquest tended to create one out of many. Roman Empire operated on that principle under the banner of the glory of Rome. Currently, there is the banner of the open world, globalization, as the liberation through global collaboration of nations. It could be also the insidious plan of a warless subjugation and the loss of national identities. In this case, the world is open to a great power, be it financial, military, scientific, and similar, transcending the national interests, to easily, in an insidious way, subjugate the rest of the open world. In that kind of open world, the creation of one out of many will never work, and it will end up into a global war. That's not the open world I addressed in my The Open World Manifesto, 2009. The honor and heroism principle for the unity of the world. The principle of honor and heroism was formulated by Marko Miljanov Popovich. Honor, protect others from yourself. Heroism, protect self from others. This applies to a person, organizations, nations, races, etc. Honor is the principle of the respect for otherness. Heroism is the principle of safeguarding the selfness. My grandfather Stefan Radosavov Popovich, says Stefan, crosses the bloodline with Marko Miljanov Popovich. Unity of the world through diversity. Respect for the otherness. American Embassy in Moscow, Russia. Soviet Union, 1979. Americans and Russians are natural friends. From 1977 to 1981, says Stefan, I was doing research in Moscow, coming from Belgrade, Serbia, Yugoslavia, in the thermonuclear fusion physics at the Lebedev Institute of Physics of the Soviet, now Russian, Academy of Sciences. In 1979, I got acquainted with many Americans in the American Embassy in Moscow.
In the American Embassy, Moscow, I had an acquaintance, Richard Larkin, a U.S. Major General. Sometimes, when I would call his suite in the embassy, he would pick up the phone. I would hear his voice, "Yellow." His hello sounded to me as yellow. Yellow is a bright color. The great Goethe says that color yellow is the brightest color of them all. Major General was from Colorado Springs, Colorado, so I told him about Nikola Tesla, an American Serb inventor physicist, and his laboratory in Colorado Springs. Major General knew more about Nikola Tesla than I did.
On Fridays night, says Stefan, the Marine Club in Moscow, the United States Embassy, was open to general public, and was the hot spot for the international youth. It was a Friday night fever.
Friday night fever. Friday night fever.
Major General Richard Larkin, says Stefan, the defense attaché to the United States ambassador in Moscow, my acquaintance was successfully promoting friendship among the international youth in Moscow. I made many international friends there.
That Friday night fever. That Friday night fever.
Malcolm Toon was the American ambassador to Soviet Union at that time, 1979. He was the ambassador to Yugoslavia from 1971 to 1975. Mr. Toon was an expert in the Slavic culture and in the subject referred to as the Slavic soul. I am convinced, says Einstein, that even if the United States and Russia were both capitalist countries, or communist, or monarchist, Their rivalries, conflicting interests, and jealousies would result in strains similar to those existing between the two countries today. I would say there will always be a friendly rivalry between the USA and Russia. The Americans and the Russians are natural friends. I learned this during my research years, 1977 to 1981, in Moscow, at the P.N. Lebedev Institute of Physics, of the Soviet, now Russian, Academy of Sciences, at the department led by Viktor Pavlovich Selin. I was a guest of the Soviet, now Russian, Academy of Sciences, coming from Belgrade, Serbia, Yugoslavia. I had also research visits to the physics research centers in Leningrad, St. Petersburg, Kiev, Ukraine, Tbilisi, Georgia, and Novosibirsk. All my expenses were paid by the Russian Academy of Sciences, for which I am deeply thankful. This was in the spring 1979. I was on a research visit in Novosibirsk, Siberia. I took a cab in Akademgorodok. As a foreigner, it was accustomed to chat with a taxi driver in the Soviet Union. They were quite educated people about world issues. I had that experience in Moscow, Leningrad, St. Petersburg, Kiev, Tbilisi, and in Akademgorodok. The taxi driver told me he had had a party at his place a few days before. His brother from Vladivostok brought some California wine. Such a good thing, he said to me about the California wine. His brother was on a business trip in California. The cab driver loved the Americans and hoped to visit California one day. He said that his brother had told him that the Russians and Americans are very much alike. Defense physics and technology. Protecting self from others. Physics and technology of the living matter. Neurophysics, stem cell physics, genomic physics, and similar disciplines. Here is what the Alexander Stefan, the author, says about neurophysics, stem cell physics, genomic physics, and public health.
Genomics and genomic medical physics have advanced rapidly over the last decade. The research field is shifting from testing rare genetic disorders to the diagnosis of diseases, heart disease, diabetes, stroke, osteoporosis, cancer, and others. The medical physics is now in a position to prevent a disease from occurring, in other words, to treat the cause rather than the symptoms, as it has been mostly the case up to the present days. A significant role, it seems to me, is played by the involvement of theoretical physics in medical research. It is the revolutionary onset for medical science, the paradigm shift in medicine and public health. The development of genomic medical physics is empowered by the information acquired from the United States Human Genome Project. It is possible to design the treatments and drugs to each individual patient. The risk of getting a disease, or even infections, is almost always in part due to the combination of genes a human was born with. By using the genetic information, medical doctors predict with different degrees of certainty what diseases their patients are at risk of developing. Consequently, medical doctors use this information to reduce the chance of the disease from occurring or to prevent it completely. The explorations into the nature of human genome, one of the major scientific challenges of the 21st century, sheds light on how faulty genes play a role in the cause of a disease. Commercial efforts are shifting away from diagnostics and toward developing a new generation of therapeutics based on genes. The drug designs, pharmacogenomics, are being revolutionized. Researchers worldwide are now creating new classes of drugs based on the information on gene sequence and protein structure function, rather than the traditional trial and error method. Drugs that are laser-guided to specific sites in the body and the brain promise to have fewer side effects than many of the drugs used currently. The ultra-short laser-guided drug delivery techniques have a high potential in targeting drugs to specific molecular areas in the brain.
The American Society for Genomic Medicine, Stefan University. The American Society for Laser Neuroscience, Stefan University. Toward a healthier human race. Unity of the world via the augmentation of brain-mind capabilities. Through the research, says Stefan, in neurophysics, stem cell physics, genomic physics, and similar disciplines, it may be possible to augment our brain-mind capabilities and become healthier human beings, almost godlike. I fantasized about this in my fiction fantasy, The Falstaff Trilogy. Every American asks, "Hey America, what do I mean to you?" We love America. And we want her to love us back. When you are successful in America, you are successful worldwide. America is the country of opportunity, like no other country in the world. The USA is the country of opportunity where people worldwide want to come to, more than to any other country, and establish their new life. It is fair to say that the world loves America and America loves the world. It is fair to say that the world loves America and that America loves the world.